Spoiler warning! Why did you click on this video not expecting spoilers? Mario Kart World looks really cool so far. But, do you know what would make it cooler? Shortcuts. Yeah! See, they know what's up. They like it. They're shortcut appreciators. This video is not scripted. There's going to be a lot of rambling in it. But I wanted to try use all of this Frankenstein put together footage to try see if we could find any sort of shortcuts before the game even comes out. Most of these are probably intended. I don't really know what's going to happen here. There's definitely a lot of very silly things I found, but I want to share it with you anyways, given my shortcut hunting experience on Mario Kart Wii custom tracks. So without further ado, let's just jump into this. Also, before we start, the game came out while I was making this, so there's no footage from post-launch. Just I'm not looking at that stuff until I get the game in my hands, okay? Everything else is just from previews and whatever the heck Nintendo decided to give people when they wanted to play the video game early. Yippee! Okay. So we're gonna start off here with Mario Bros. Circuit. All of the Mushroom Cup footage is coming directly from Nintendo of America, so thank you Nintendo of America, because yeah, we need footage. A bunch of different channels are going to be used here for the footage in this video, so shoutouts to all of them. I'll name all of them as I'm showing off the footage. But for Mario Bros. Circuit, you can see this wooden ramp on this green building, sort of metal scraps. However, the main thing I wanted to talk about is how you access this building, because if it will skip the frames, there we go. So as you can see, you can get there using this plane ramp, airplane ramp, glider ramp. We'll just call it glider for sake of ease. But you can come up here from the main road over to this sort of glider ramp, and then you can go across over to the green roof where the ramp is. This is interesting, but it almost feels kind of not worth it because you have to go so far out of the way for the glider ramp. What I would see maybe being possible is that you stay here on the left, go on this rail over here, and then using this rail, you can then go on, you can trick off of it and try get onto this rock and then go on top of it, and that might be a bit faster. You do have to worry about the crates. Another option could just be that you're driving along where these guys are, and you charge a charge trick. You get a little jump out here, maybe get a little wall ride off this rock somehow, and then shoot yourself upwards over this. I say this because there was this mission clip, and the way it worked was that he went off the top of a cliff, and he shot really high up. I'll get a bit of footage for this editing, but for now, yeah. I think that's all that's going to be at this ending turn. There's possibly a way to take that ramp without having to go out for the glider. And then here we're going to get to see a different camera shot of Mario Bros. Circuit, and we'll see this little rock over here. I don't think this rock has anything too crazy going on, but I was kind of considering before this idea of using a rail grinder on this outer rail, tricking off to this rock, and then trying to see if you can get back onto the road to kind of skip off some of this turn, but it seems unlikely. At best it could be a feather cut. Maybe there's a ramp hiding on this rock and I just can't see it, but I'm gonna move on to Whistle Stop Summit. And firstly, I just want to pay attention to these signs here, because you can push them, and while that might not seem like much, it is kind of interesting that they have those physics, because those signs are actually blocking off this road on the left here. Now, to be fair, there are like Sludge Bros, Koopas, and Toads over here also blocking all of this off, but you can see here there is a road to the left. I mean, look, I think it would be better to stay on this rail, take it tight, and then just trick off and go this way, but you can see that this road does just take you here. I don't think it's even going to be allowed in races. I can imagine like you two will just sort of, hey, no, don't go there, and then you kind of move on. Whistle Stop Summit, I do see have one in, words. So I think it should have one of the bigger cuts in the game, and it's a bit of a shame that this is one of the bigger cuts, but oh well. There seems to be some sort of a gap cut here, kind of similar to Mushroom Gorge, but a bit smaller. A lot smaller. But I think you can charge a trick coming up here and then just do a little jump across the gap. And if not, it definitely seems like this is wall rideable to just cross over the gap. And if not, feather. The feather seems very useful. So I think that should be a little no item shortcut there, but I'm not too sure. Something I've seen and some of my friends have seen is that this road up here, it seems like you can get here from tricking off the rail and then going right. However, I also noticed that this road does not go anywhere, because it's this road that kind of wraps around here and then goes above and then comes down. And like, we're heading off this way, or over to the right. We're not going up there, so that's not really useful for us. The last thing I want to touch on Mushroom Cup is on DK Spaceport. So you can see here that there's this kind of wall going this way. I think you should just be able to like take this turn on the inside of this wall, just using a wall right here. Maybe you get this little rail out of it, but I'd almost wonder if that rail is worth it because you're skipping out on a plane ramp then. Glider. Maybe you get the glider from the rail, I don't know. I mean, yeah. So we're here on Desert Hills thanks to Vooks, and the lake has been replaced with a giant patch of grass. That's going to be fun if you have a triple mushrooms or a golden. And the pyramid has been replaced by this stone ramp. I would simply charge a trick, get that little jump that it gives you, and then land on the stone to do that shrimless. Get your little coin as well. Yippee, very nice. Then you can come up here and we'll see where the Pokies used to be. Very sad, they died. Oh well. You got your little shrimp cut on the right there, and then the main attraction for this wall. This wall is kind of crazy, because I assume you can take the turns high and then charge a trick, go onto this wall, maybe get those coins and maybe not. But if you shoot yourself off the top of the wall, you get some crazy height in this game. So I think just shooting yourself off the top of the wall to get over to this wall then would be quite good. We know that you can shoot so high because of some mission mode footage, so I'll let that play in a sec. But then you can also see here there's another little path with some coins on it. I think if you can get over there from the first one, then you automatically skip this first turn. But then I think you can also skip straight to the finish, because if you do a second wall ride and you get the big jump again, you should just be able to land at the lake where the finish line is. And because you're in a boat in this game, I would assume you can just drive straight back to the finish line, or you can just drive along here to the right and just finish that way. Seems like a good few turns you can skip without any items. Okay, so we have some Shy Guy Bizarre footage here thanks to this Japanese YouTuber, MK something CH. I'm not gonna try to read it, I don't know how to read it. So this top route here, that's seen in DS, you can get up there the exact same way as in the 3DS. But then, what's really interesting about this, there's an item box up here. I would assume you reach from that top path. There's surely a ramp at the end that lets you go up here, and maybe you can skip the turn from that. Unless it's also like you land on this sort of thing and it's a rail then, the sort of lights. Maybe that's actually a rail and you can go to it that way. Not too sure, but it does let you skip this turn that he's very nicely showing us. So that could be quite interesting to see what's different there. And then the only other thing is that you can probably feather up here or do a wall ride up here and then just take this turn on the inside. So some nice stuff on this track, nothing crazy though. We're just gonna move on to the next track. So thanks to Game Explain, we can see the last track in the Final Cup, and it's the Wario Stadium from the N64. Now you can see through this blurry image that there's this turn at the end, and then you can skip it off using a shroom to go through some tires. It's a bit messy here, but stay with me. I think you should just be able to use a feather to go on top here, skip off the turn that way, and then that'd be quite nice. But also, I think you actually should just be able to wall ride, go wide, charge a trick, drive up, do some jank turn to get around. It could be quite awkward, but it would be no item. So, I mean, look, it seems like this game has some possibilities for way to do no item shortcuts where there should be a dirt cut that you would use a shroom or a feather. So it's going to be quite interesting to see. First immediate thing I notice on DK Pass is this cliff, because there's usually just a bit of snow on the top of this and then you go into the next turn. What if you could just wall ride up Like, I'm gonna assume Lakitu says, no, like, this game would not be that nice. But, you know, I mean, the dirt cut is still here. You can see Toad coming in from the right. So, there's still a snow cut there. I just doubt it will just let you wall ride up and be like, I'm gonna skip this entire turn now. I don't see that happening. Maybe Nintendo's gonna be very nice, but I think Lakitu is just gonna grab you. After Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, I'm very skeptical of that even being a possibility. It's not great. However, at this ending, there definitely seems to be some sort of ending cut you can do. I think you can kind of flick yourself off this half pipe and then just skip over, perhaps? We'll see. Not too sure. Okay, so here's something fun to talk about on Sky High Sunday. You see here, Peach has triple greens, and she can throw them at these crates. You'll see that they open up, and you can see there's a ramp, but it's not like, you don't see it for very long, but here you can see it again. There's a ramp here that she's opened up, and that should just let you skip. This is actually really similar to a custom track I made for Mario Kart Wii, where you can do the exact same thing to skip off a turn. So look, that shortcut might not mean much to anyone, but it means something to me. I was about to close my tab on this one, but I just noticed something else. There is a pipe there on Peach's screen. What is going on with that? Can you use warp pipes to kind of do shortcuts now? I'm not too sure. Also, I feel like I have to mention this now that I'm here, but yeah, you can wall ride along this turn. There's even a CPU doing it. Let's go, Penguin. Okay, so we're here at Wario Shipyard, and you can see here that there's the original game, just the same. You have your left route and you have your right route. The right route takes you up a little higher, and then there's a gap you have to avoid. Peach in this clip does not avoid it very well, thank you Nintendo employee. So the main reason why I'm bringing this up in the first place though, is because there's now a ramp up here, and a ramp on top of the cannon. Don't know what... Nope, not a clue. Sorry Nintendo, don't know what you're doing there. However, if I had to guess how you do it, I would say you take the right path here, and then you can maybe wall ride to get up to a rail on top. There is a rail on top, I can see that. I'm just not sure how you reach it. Maybe wall ride, maybe feather, but this seems like a rail you can grind on. And then you just go to that ramp, and then it should fling you over here, and you go on the top ramp. Is there much point in it? Probably not, but it does let you take the turn tighter, so we'll see. We've got more Nintendo footage here for Acorn Heights. There's definitely a way to do what this Nabbit player just did. I think it's Corey. Yeah, there's definitely a way to do what he just did without using a mushroom. You can definitely just rail grind that, for sure, absolutely. Or even a wall rider, I guess. But main thing I want to point out is this little shroom cut here. You can definitely just charge a trick and wall ride off that building. Definitely, no way you can't. I think that's another little shroom cut that you can just do shroomless because of wall riding. It's such a weird game, man. Okay, so thanks to Ray Strasdas, we have some footage of Koopa Beach 2 that came out yesterday. It's called Koopa Beach in game, but it's a 5-lap track and it is Koopa Beach 2. So, as you can see here on the left, we've got this ramp that's behind some pink blocks, and then some trees between it and the ramp. I think this ramp is a shortcut that you can take in GP mode. It seems like it is anyway. You're gonna play Koopa Beach 2 as normal, but then on the next lap I'll show you how I think you get there. As you can see on the left over here, there's no real way of getting in there yet, but here it looks like you can go over these blocks with a charge trick. Maybe you can't, I don't exactly know the height of a charge trick yet, but definitely with a feather. And then you can just go over towards the ramp this way. And that should let you skip off a decent chunk of this turn actually. So we'll see what's over there on launch day. So thanks to Ray Bacon, we have some footage of Salty Speedway. And I think you can wall ride on this left wall just to get up and then take this top route. If not, it's definitely a tighter line you can get to using the feather. You can see there's some crates up there, so I'm a bit paranoid that might be a little awkward, but you can always just drop down to avoid crashing into them. The only other thing I really see on this track is there's this grass cut here to the right. There might be something you can do to do some of that shroomless. And then, of course, this track is very well known already for its wall riding shenanigans. You can kind of stay on top, do some bunch of tricks, cut off the turn a little bit. It's going to be an interesting track for sure. So we have a game-based news center here for more footage for Dino Jungle. And I think the main thing on this track is going to be this rail grind on the back of the dinosaur. You can see there's an iron box on the back of him. You can definitely get to him quite early on and then just ride on him there. Then you probably want to use this rail grind to get onto this wall and then go up here, and there's a bunch of boost panels. You can see a CPU using these boost panels in a second on baby Rosalina's screen. There you go. I think the main thing though is just going to be shrooming through the grass on that section, honestly. And then here, more interestingly, I think possibly you could charge a trick and wall ride on this and then skip the turn. We can just trick off here and wall ride on it to skip the turn. But I'm skeptical of that. I don't really see it happening. I feel like Nintendo are going to go, no, But it was allowed in Mario Kart 7, so we'll see if you can skip that ending U-turn. Great Question Block Ruins seems to have these sort of split paths where they're quite vertically different in the same section, and a couple of hidden rails, but the main thing I want to talk about comes from IGN, and it's this very awkward jump where he goes off the track, wall rides, tricks off a branch, and then dies to a red shell on that cloud. I don't think that's the best way of doing it, but I do think if you come in from the route on the right, you could just kind of jump off here. And I think you should just be able to aim for this branch and then just trick off and go onto the cloud. Maybe you do require this wall ride, I don't know. This clip has kind of been getting a bit of traction over the past day, just being like, oh, this is the shortcut potential of this game. I still don't know. I mean, you could definitely wall ride this block as well. There's definitely something here. But it's kind of the thing that's made people go, oh yeah, wall rides are silly. So here we have some footage of cheap falls from Nintenderos, and the main thing I want to point out is that there's this grass cut here that you can do with a shroom, presumably. I do wonder if you can get over there using either a wall ride again, or maybe just with a feather if you could get over this sort of cliff face and then kind of go over a bit more, skip more of the turn. I don't know, Lakitu might stop you, it's just something I wanted to point out. This track doesn't seem too crazy in terms of shortcuts anyway, but it does look like a really fun track with some really good music. Okay, so here's Choco Mountain, and it's not very recognizable, but it is Choco Mountain. I want to talk about something, but none of the footage I could find really helps me explain it. However, we're gonna go with Tris Valbuena's footage. I hope I got the name right, I probably didn't. But you can see here, on this wall here on the left, we can possibly get a wall ride going that would allow us to kind of skip through all of this tar pool that kind of makes you go around. It's not super clear to me if you can do any of this. It's just, this is probably the most speculative one because I can't really get anything, but I think you could maybe wall ride along this wall on the right and just stay wall riding to kind of skip through that tar pool without having a shroom or anything. We've got some footage here from Daily Nintendo showing off Toad's Factory. I think everyone kind of knows the stuff here. I mean, in that section he just drove through, you can wall ride to get on top and get some item boxes. Here you can go on these crane platforms, you can rail ride up these red parts, get on top, and then go on this top route, and then you've got this sort of rail here with some coins on it. So that's useful for the coins, good coin route on Toad's Factory I suppose. Nothing too crazy in terms of shortcuts, but something I would like to point out is at this section here, I think I've even seen a computer player do it, but you can land on this girder, and then this would be a rail, I imagine, and trick over to this one, and then you can kind of skip the turn that way. It's a shame the lake is gone, but like, you're just going to use a boat in this version anyway. They'd probably just have to put a giant hole in the ground, and at that point I don't think it's worth it. So it's a shame that it's gone, but that little rail cut is a quite nice addition to make up for it. Okay, so we're moving into Bowser's Castle now. If there was a track that you wanted to see here, I probably just didn't have good enough footage to find something, or there just wasn't anything. There are some intended cuts that I've just completely left out on purpose because I don't think they're worth the time explaining, but we're going to start off with this rail grind here before we get into something a bit more interesting. I would imagine If you're going on the left route, use the left wall. If you're going on the right route, use the right wall. Charge trick into the wall, get onto the rail, and then you get some free coins from that. There do seem to be some rails here. I don't think they're accessible, and I don't think they're actually rails. I think they're just for a bit of aesthetic purposes. But if you did find a way on this left one and it was a rail, you could definitely skip a bit of this turn using it. What's more interesting to me is this section here. Very blurry. But you can see these cones here where there's no wall, and that's a bit weird to me. But there's a crate here. I think you can use this crate to wall ride and skip this 90-degree bend. It's not much of a cut, it probably might not even be too much faster at all, but it is something I saw, so I figured I'd mention it, and that's kind of it. That's pretty much everything now. Mario Kart World is probably going to be out in most regions by the time this video is actually out, so I appreciate you watching through the whole thing, because look, the game's already out, so people are going to have footage of all these shortcuts if they are possible. I'm not going to be looking at too many comments on this one until tomorrow. I kind of want to go into the game without people telling me if these shortcuts are possible or not, so I want to try them for myself. But do leave comments if you can get some of these. I will read them once I have the game and start playing. Thank you for watching, and I will leave it there. Goodbye. Also subscribe actually. No, hang on, I'm coming back to tell you you should...